Hello everyone, and thank you very much for another one of my videos of game creation using Stride3D. And this is a continuation of the last tutorial that I made. So it's a simple RPG type 2D game, top-down view. And in this game, there's a ghost hunter that goes around and kills a bunch of ghosts. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you see that tutorial before you view this one, because this is adding more features to that one. So in this tutorial, I'm just going to run it and show you what we are going to be making. So we are going to be adding this UI user interface, which is a start menu. So it has a play button, it has the registering of the last score of the last round that you play, and there is an exit button. So if you play and you start the level 1, and here if you kill the ghosts, now you can see there's some score going on there. Also, if you get caught now, you get immediately sent back to the start menu, and you can see the last score that you made. So there are going to be also some bonus, like adding this background sounds that we hear here, and also increasing the difficulty of the game. So please have a look at this tutorial if you're interested. Also, go and check the links on the description of this video. There are the links to GitHub page with where you can get the resources for this tutorial. So let's start making our improvements to our game. Let's run Stride on our machine. Once it's open, let's select our game project. That's going to be our RPG game, or the project with the name that you gave on your machine. And now that we have the project open, before we start implementing our UI, we're going to make some changes to better organize our game project. So let's do that next. Going to our Solution Explorer on the Assets folder, we are going to create another folder called Scenes. This folder will contain all the scenes of our project. We are going to need one scene for the UI page, and we'll call that scene the start menu. And we also will need to rename the main scene, which is the scene that contains the game, and we will call that one level 1. So let's do that next. So we can start by renaming the main scene. We can go to Assets, Main Scene, and we can select rename, and let's call this scene the level 1 scene. Save this, and let's create another scene. Let's rename it, and we will call this start menu. Let's save this, and now that we have our scenes, we can put our scenes inside our scenes folder. So I'll just drag and drop them in there, and let's run the game to see what happens. The game is working as expected, so let's carry on. Next, in our code folder, we will add another folder. This folder will contain all the code scripts for the start menu, so we can call this folder start menu and leave it at that. We can also create another folder for the sounds. So let's create the folder and call it sounds. Go back to the asset folder, and now we can drag and drop the sounds. Just made a mistake there. So drag it into sounds. And now we have our sounds in our sound folder and the scenes in our scene folder. And let's run the game and see if some error pops up now. And this time we get an error. The console window just flashed by and went away very quickly, so I couldn't show you. But the error we are getting is because once we've put our sounds in a different folder in the code, we have to make the necessary changes so the sounds can be found and correctly referenced. So let's make those changes. So going to our code folder, and we know that the sounds for the ghosts are here and the ball behavior script, and where the sound is loaded we will have to add the correct path. So this will be sound and the name of the sound, so the folder and the name of the file. Let's build this, and we will have to do the same for the other sound, the ball sound. So let's go and find that. So that will be in the Ghost Hunter shooting action. So double click on this one, and the same thing. So where the sound is loaded, we will have to make the adjustment here. So sounds, which is the folder and the name of the sound file. So let's save this, build it, and let's run the game as soon as it builds. And now the game loads, so let's see. And we have the sounds. Let's kill the ghost. And that's working fine, so we are ready for the next phase. So next we will need to make some changes to make sure that the first scene loaded is going to be the start menu, because we don't want to start playing our game right away. We want first to see the user interface and select play. So we have our start menu here, and let's include in build as root access. And now let's go back to the assets folder and let's double click the game settings and going to our property grid, first option. So the default scene here is level 1, so we're going to set this as the start menu. So let's change this to be the start menu, and let's go back to scenes and double click the start menu, and let's run our game at this point to see what comes up. And we are getting a warning here. It says that the scene camera renderer has no camera assigned to its slots. Okay, so let's change this. So this happens because we don't have a camera on our scene, so nothing is being rendered. So let's do that next. Let's add a camera to our start menu scene, so when the game starts it will render something. So let's do that. We are already on our start menu scene. Let's add a camera here, and let's add an orthographic camera. Next, we are going to our property grid, and here in the slot, we will select the main slot in our graphics composer. So select that. If we don't select this, otherwise the camera won't render anything, because it needs a reference to the graphics composer, which is in charge of the rendering. So let's run our game and see if it runs correctly. And the game now starts, and as expected, it's just showing a gray view, which is since we don't have a background yet, so it's not showing anything. So let's add the background now. To add the background, we are going to click the right mouse button, and we are going to select 2D background, and let's leave the name as background. And now we will add the background image, that the same that we added to our game. So go back to assets, and with the background selected, we are going to select to drag and drop the background, and also very important, we are going to select the 2D background. So this creates a static background. This is different from what we have set up in our level 1 game. because here is going to be static, so it's going to remain static independent of the way the camera is facing, so we always see the background. So let's run the game, and as you can see, we can see the background and we are ready to carry on to the next step. So before we create our actual user interface for the game, we are going to need to get the background image for the menu. And I will leave the link in the description of this video, so you can click the link. It's a GitHub page and you can download the image from there. In this case, I already have the image in my machine, so I'm just going to add it here to our assets. So let's do that next. So going to our Solution Explorer, right click on your mouse, show in Explorer to open the game resource folder. So that will be in our RPG game, and then resources. And here we have the game images that we had from the previous tutorial. So we'll need to get our background image, our menu background image, which is this one, and we are going to just drag and drop it inside this folder so we can become accessible in our Stride Game Studio. Next, going back to our Stride Game Studio, we now can import that image as an asset. So click on the assets folder. Next, add assets, and we're going to add a texture and a color, and we now have our game menu background here, and we just click on it and it's on our project. So at this point we are ready to start creating our UI page, which is going to be the way that we are going to show the actual start menu. So let's do that next. To create our start menu, we will need to create a UI page. So to create a UI page, we're going to the assets folder here, and we are going to add an asset, and we are going to select UI page, and now we can give it a name. Let's give it the name of start menu. Let's start editing our UI. To edit our UI, we just double click on the start menu that we just created. And we now have this page here. So looking at this, we can see a rectangular shape here, and this is what is seen on the viewport of our game, or what is going to be displayed to the user. So first thing we need to do is to add our menu background, the one that we added before. So let's do that. On the UI library, we are going to select the image element, which is this one, and we are going to drag and drop it inside here. And if we go here to the visual tree, we open grid, we now have the image element here. And if we click on it, we will see here appear the element. So now we need to add the image to it. So clicking on the image element and going to the property grid, we see the properties for this image element. And actually we can rename it and give it a better name. So let's call it start menu background. And if we go here, we could also have changed it here. And now let's add the image. So in the first section here, which is called appearance, we have a source property, and we can select texture, and now we can drag and drop the image from the start menu. And now that you have our image added, if we start to scale our image, we will see it appear here. And now we just have to scale it to a size that fits our viewport. Okay, so this seems okay. And next we are going to create the buttons and add them here on top of our image. So let's do that next. And now we are going to add the play button. So going up here to our UI library, we select the button and we drag and drop it into the viewport, and we'll have to scale the button so we can put it here. And let's change this text as well. So if we go here to the visual tree, we can select the text block, and on the property grid here we can change the text. Let's type in play, and that looks okay. So another thing we can do is change the name for the button, because we will need to access it by code later. So on the property grid again, in the miscellaneous section here, we can give a name to our button. So let's give it the name of play button. And that's it. And now we are going to add another button, and this button is going to be the exit button. So when we want to exit the game, easy way to do this is just select this button here and just duplicate it and drag it down here, and we'll just change the name. We're going to change the name to exit button. And we're also going to change the text to exit. We need to select the text block, of course. And let's And next we are going to add the score in the middle here. So we'll need two text boxes for this. One will be static, just containing the score text, and the other one will be the actual display of the score after the game is finished. So every time you play around, then the score will be displayed here when the game returns to the menu. So let's add those two. So in the miscellaneous section here, we have the text block. So we just drag it in. So select the text block, and at first you might not see it, but it is here. So, you have to scale it down, and you can put the text inside. So let's just put score, and let's make this centered. It's the text alignment property here. So we'll just put center and resize this. And put it in the middle. Yep, that's it. And we'll, just for convenience, we'll rename this to score, just so we can score text. And now we'll create another one. So it's just the same thing, just drag and drop it in and select it here. We can rename it and just give it the name of score. And now we can resize it. To align it to center. And the default value can be 0. So I think this looks good. So we have our play button, which is the way we will load the level 1 scene and play the actual game. And when we lose, we get back to our menu here, and we have the exit button. If you decide not to play, then you click exit and the game stops immediately. The score will track the points for the last round that you play. So this concludes the UI page, and let's now go back to the start menu. We are now going to add this UI page to the start menu scene. So going to our asset view, we are going to select our start menu here, and we are going to drag and drop it into our start menu scene, and right away we can see the menu being displayed. So let's run the game and see how this looks. And as you see, we now have our game menu being displayed, and also the buttons that if we click, you see that it works, but nothing happens. Also the exit button, and the score is just static test here that will change by code dynamically. So this concludes this part, and let's move on to the next part. Let's now implement the exit functionality. So this will be when you click the exit button, you will exit the game. So inside this folder, we are going to create a startup script, and we'll give it a name of exit button click. So exit button click. So we have all the other scripts are in the code folder, and these are related to the level 1. And then we have our start menu folder where we have our exit button click script. So let's open this script by clicking twice on it, and let's start adding the code. And this is the code necessary to run the exit functionality. So first we get the UI page. Next we are getting the button called exit button. So we are getting the reference for the button we've created in the UI page. And next we are accessing the event. So when the button is clicked, we will execute some code. So in this case, we are accessing the game profiler instance that is always available, and then we are accessing the game instance and evoking the exit method here. So now the next thing we need to do is to add this script to our UI page. So let's do that next. So clicking the start menu scene, we go to our start menu, and now we add a component in the property grid, and we are going to add the script that we just created. So it's not appearing here, it is exit button click. So click on it. If we scroll down, here it is, exit button click. So let's run our game and see if it's working properly. So play doesn't do anything yet, score is just static test, and if we click exit, then the game closes. And that is it for our exit button. So now let's go to the next button. Let's now add the functionality for the play button. So in our solution explorer, if we go to code and start menu, we will create another script that we will attach to our UI page. So going to add asset, and we go to scripts, and we're going to create another startup script. So click on that, and we're going to give it the name of play button click. And we open this script, and let's start adding the code here. Let's look at the code. So as we did before, we are getting the UI page reference here, and we are also getting the button reference. This time we are getting the play button reference, and also we are attaching here some code to the click event for this button. And what happens here is when the this button is clicked, then the scene that we describe here, which is level 1, will be loaded. This will be loaded into the root scene. So we should no longer see the start menu scene and start to see the level 1 scene and can play the game from there. So let's save this and let's attach this script to our start menu scene. So let's go back to our start menu and click on the start menu UIPage entity. And in the property grid, we are adding a component, which is the script that we just created. So the play button click script here. So click on that one and it should be added, and there it is. So let's test the game. So now if we click the play button, let's see what happens. And we are getting an error. So it says that the asset level 1 could not be found. Let's see what could be the problem. Okay, so we need to include our level 1 here as a root asset. So let's do that. And let's run the game again. And let's click the play button. And there you have it. So that's it for the play button functionality, and let's move on. And next, we want to implement a behavior for when our ghost hunter gets caught by a ghost. And what we want to happen is for the scene to unload, the game scene, and we want to go back to our start menu. So let's implement that now. So in our solution explorer, we go to code and we have to find the script for when the ghost collides with our ghost hunter. And here it is. So looking at this code at the end here, so when the ghost hunter gets caught and is deleted from the scene, we actually want to change this and want to unload the current scene and load the start menu scene again. So let's do this now. So delete this code and let's put the new code in. Let's save this. So let's look at the code that we've created. So first we need to unload the current scene, which is the level 1 game scene. And next we are loading the start menu scene. So let's test this and see if it works. Let's press play. And let's get caught by a ghost. And there you go. We are immediately sent back to the start menu. And if we press play again, then we start new. And this is all working, so let's go to the next step. Next, we are going to be adding a score manager. So whenever our ghost hunter kills a ghost, he gains some points and we need to be able to track these points. So let's do that next. So this time we are going to be using the Visual Studio community. So let's open Visual Studio community, and next we'll be adding a class, and this C# class is going to be a static class, so we'll call it score manager. So for this we right click on top of the RPG game and we are going to be adding a C# class, and let's call it score manager. And we are going to be making this class public static class. So public static class. And next I'm going to be adding the code. So let's look at this code that I've added. So first of all, we're going to have a property called score, and this will keep track of the score. We will also be adding an event, and this event is on score changed, and this will be needed to, whenever the score is changed, we want to trigger this event and also display it on our game. I'll show you later how this is going to be done. And also we'll have the method to add the actual score and also invoking the onChange event. And we'll also need a way to reset the score every time the game starts anew. And this concludes our score manager system. So let's continue. So from here, we can start adding some score when the ghost is killed, because we already have our score manager in place. So let's do that. So let's go to our ball behavior script. And whenever there's a collision between the ball and the ghost, it means the ghost was destroyed. And here is where we will add our score. So we're going to access our score manager, and let's make this 50 points every time a ghost is killed. So the score manager, we are accessing the add score method, and we are adding 50 points every time a ghost is killed. And also we can reset the score when the game starts. So let's go to our play button click script that we made before. And every time the button is clicked to play the game, we will reset the score. So let's do that. So score manager and reset score. So this means that every time the game is being played for the first time, then the score is going to be 0. So if we play the game at this moment, we will not see the score being displayed yet. So let's do that next. So next we want to see the points that the ghost hunter makes every time he kills a ghost. So for that we'll need to add another UI page. This time we are going to the level 1 scene, and that UI page is going to be added to the game scene. So as the game is played, every time the ghost hunter kills a ghost, then the score should appear in the top left corner of the game. So let's do that next. So we will go to our assets in the solution explorer. So let's add an asset, UI page, and let's give it a name, score UI. We're going to double click it to open, and as before we see this rectangular box that represents what we will view in our game, and we can start adding what we need to display the text. So we will need a text block. So let's drag it in, and going to our visual tree and selecting the text block, we can now start to shape, to scale it to the size we want, and we can position it somewhere in a corner here. And let's also change it the name. So this time we're going to do it here in the property grid. So going all the way down, and let's call it in-game score. And now we need to add this UI to our scene. So going back to our level 1 scene, we can now drag and drop our score UI inside our level 1 scene. And now we need to create a script to update the score inside the text block that we just created. So let's create that script now. In our Solution Explorer, we are going to click on Code, and we are going to add a new script here because it's the script relating to our level 1 scene. So let's add that script. And again, it's going to be a startup script. So script, startup script. And we're going to call it show in-game score. Let's open this in Visual Studio and let's find our new script. So show in-game score, open this script and let's start adding the code here. So let's look at this code that we've just created. So first of all, we are getting the onScore change event from our score manager. So every time the score changes, this event accepts a method. In this case, the method will update the score text that is inside the box that we created, that is called in-game score. So every time the score is changed, then the box will update. And next, what we need to do is to add this script to the UI that we've added to the level 1 scene. So let's do that. So going back to our Stride game editor, and we have our score UI, and we are going to add that script that we've just created. So scripts and show in game score. It's added, so let's run the game and see if it's working correctly. Let's click to play. So you can see every time we kill a ghost, our score is incremented by 50 points. And if we lose, then we get sent back to the start menu. And let's exit the game. So next, what we need to do is to update the latest score. So when we return to our start menu, we see the score that we had before the ghost hunter got caught. So let's do that next. Every time the game ends, we want to display the total score in the start menu, so the player knows how much points did he make. So we need to go back to our start menu scene and we need to add a script that will update the start menu UI page, namely the score here in the middle. So let's do that next. In our Solution Explorer, going to our Start Menu Code folder, and we are going to add a script here, and it's going to be called Show Last Score. So it can be that. So let's add another startup script, and let's give it a name. So last score. And let's open this in Visual Studio. So let's look for the script we've just created. Here it is inside the start menu folder. So let's open this and let's add the code here. So this code simply gets the reference from the UI page and gets also the reference for the text block, which is named score, the name that we gave before. And it simply updates that field with the score, the total score. So the next thing we need to do is to add this script to the UI page component. So let's go back to Stride Game Studio. And in the start menu, and here on the property grid, we are going to add a script that we just created. Show last score. And that's it. So let's save this and run our game. Let's click to play. and let's make some points. So now if we die and we see that the last score we made was 150 points, and let's play again, so the score should be reset to 0. So let's play and let's make a different number of points. So let's say we make 50 points, and that's it. We only made 50 points this time, and that concludes this part. So let's continue. Let's add a logic to make the game harder as it progresses. So let's say that when the player reaches certain points, then the ghosts spawn faster. So let's do that now. So to do this, we'll need to go to the code folder, and we will need to find the spawn point. So correct. So we need to change this logic here where the ghosts spawn. So they are spawning every 5 seconds, but we want them to spawn faster as we gain more points. So let's add that logic now. And we are actually going to do this using Visual Studio Code. So let's go to Visual Studio Code and let's go to our spawn point script, and let's change this. So looking at the code that we just added, first we are defining a 5-second spawn rate. This is the default spawn rate. And next we have these if statements here. So if the score is above 500, then the spawn rate will be 4 seconds. And if it's above 1500, it's going to be 3 seconds for each ghost to be spawned. And if you get to 2500, then it's going to be 2 seconds. I'm not going to run the game now. I'm going to leave it up to you to test it, because I don't want to take too much time testing this out. So good luck with that, and let's go to the next part. The last thing I want to do is to add ambient sound to the start menu, and we can also add it to the game itself, but you can do that as a challenge. I'll just add it to the start menu, and the process is very easy. So let's do that now and go back to our start menu. And first thing we need to do is to import our sound. So for this, we are going to our Solution Explorer and Show in Explorer. So we open the folder of our game, go to RPG game and resources. And again, we'll need to put our sound in our sounds folder here. So I already have the sound here, but again, I'll leave the link in the description and you can download this sound, use it in your own project. So I'm going to add this sound to our resources, and I'll go back to the Stride Game Studio. And now what we need to do is add the asset. So the sounds, and we want to add a sound. So we are going to media, and we're going to sound effects. And we are going to add the spooky ambient music. So here it is. Don't forget to include inbuilt as roots. And we are ready to go to the next part. So next we are going to create a script to play this sound. So we're going to add an empty entity here that we are going to call background ambient. And we are going to create a script to then attach to this entity. So let's do that. So going to our start menu code folder, and we are going to again add a startup script. And we are going to call this script start menu ambient sound. We are going to open in Visual Studio, and I'm going to add the code next. So let's look at this code that I've just entered. So first of all, I'm creating a sound instance to be accessible. And next, I will load the sound that we've just imported from our resources and as an asset. Next, we have our sound instance creation here. And this is, since this is an ambient music, this will be looping. So we set that to is looping to true. And next we play. Also, this is necessary. So every script has a cancel method. This because when we load the different scene, we want the music to stop. So loading the level 1 game scene, the music will stop. Otherwise, it would continue to play, and if we return back to the start menu, then it would play on top of the other that was already playing, and so on. So we need to cancel every time we load a different scene. So now what we need to do is just add this script to the entity we've created before. So let's do that. Let's go back to our Stride Game Studio. Click on our entity background ambient sound entity and add the components of scripts and start menu ambient sound. That's it. And let's save this and let's start the game. And you can hear the music, but this is really loud, so let's make some changes to our method. And here we are setting the volume to be 0.3. So the volume goes from 0.0 to 1, I think. Yeah, that's right. And so 1 being full volume. So 0.3, let's put 0.4 and see what comes up. So let's save this and start the game. Let's reduce it a little bit, so 0.2. And that seems much better. So let's play the game, and the music stops. And if we die, we should go back to the menu and the music starts again. And that's it. So this concludes this tutorial. We've covered a bunch of stuff here. So I hope this helps you on your projects. Don't forget to check out code GitHub. I'll leave the link in the description. Also, please do subscribe to help me out. These are my first videos, but I'm glad to make more if you guys subscribe and the channel grows, so please help me out. And also leave a like and share, it's always helpful. And that's it. So thank you very much and see you next time.